Hello everyone, and welcome to a live interaction with NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We will begin the program at promptly 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're having any trouble with the audio, please use the information located on this screen now. Hello everyone, and welcome to NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries and Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants live interaction. Today we have our cross-country voyage through public waters with National Marine Sanctuaries and Hispanic Access Foundation. We are bringing on Shauna to present to us later, but first I'm going to turn it over to JOSÉ to give us a run of show.
Fantastic.
Hey JOSÉ.
Hi there, Hannah. Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to the presentation today. Welcome in to everyone who's joining in on the GoTo webinar. Really exciting to have you from all across the US and the entire world. So yes, as Hannah said, my name is JOSÉ. I'm with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I want to just take a second to do a quick run through of what we do. So we are a digital education nonprofit. We connect scientists and explorers from around the world with kids through digital learning sessions just like this one. If you go to our website at exploringbytheseat.com, you can get a sense of all the programs that we run. So earlier today, we did one on Hearts in the Ice, an amazing Arctic program. You can learn more and find out events coming near you on our newsletter, so you can sign into that right there in the middle of our website. And while the summer isn't our peak period, we typically operate mainly from September through June. We do have a few really exciting programs happening over the summer, including today's program and another one with NOAA in just a few days. So you can check that out online, free for all involved. We really encourage you guys to take part. The other thing I wanted to share today before we get started is after Hannah comes back on in a minute, she's going to introduce a little bit about NOAA's programs in general, and then introduce Shanna to blow our mind with all the cool Hispanic Access Foundation stuff. But we have something called Slido today. So Slido is a tool that you can use to share your questions, upvote your favorite questions, and take part in some fun interactive polls and quizzes. So if you head to sli.do or slido.com, or use the direct link on the bottom, or finally, if you're quick with your cell phone, you can scan the QR code in the top left. You can go to Slido, use the event code HAF for our topic today, and take part in those aforementioned polls and quizzes, and share your questions throughout the broadcast. So we're really excited for you guys to do that. I'll be monitoring that and sharing your questions at the end. And with that, let's turn it back to Hannah, and she can dive in with a little bit about all the amazing stuff that NOAA's got going on. Thanks, Hannah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, JOSÉ. And are you going to drop the Slido link into the chat?
Yes, I can do that right now as we speak. So let me pull that up, and
awesome.
We'll go from there. Perfect.
Awesome. That sounds great. So before we turn it over to our presenter today, I'm going to introduce you to our National Marine Sanctuary System. So the National Marine Sanctuaries are managed by NOAA, and they encompass over 600,000 square miles of marine protected waters. We have 16 marine protected areas, including 14 national marine sanctuaries. They span all the way from Olympic Coast to the Florida Keys, and even all the way further into the Pacific and American Samoa. I want to know, this is our first Slido question to show you how interactive this presentation can be. I want to know if you're watching this live stream with other people, and if so, how many? So as Jesse had mentioned, the Slido link is in the chat with the access code HAF for Hispanic Access Foundation, and you can answer the question there.
Fantastic. We got our first one coming in, and I know it might take a few people a minute to come in. That's perfect. We got 4 now. Bunch of loners watching this independently, which is awesome.
Awesome. All right, so with that, I hope you are able to share this once it's recorded if you enjoyed it with some of your friends and family. I'm going to keep going through, and I'm going to start giving a virtual tour of our National Marine Sanctuary, starting in the most northwest corner of continental US, Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary. This sanctuary protects tidal ecosystems as well as some deep sea corals and kelp forests. Further south, we have Greater Fairlands National Marine Sanctuary located in Northern California, where you see these shorebirds here. Cordell Bank National Marine Sanctuary, also located in Northern California, protects an abundance of biodiverse deep sea corals. Bordering both Greater Fairlands and Cordell Bank is Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, also in Northern California. Here you see an elephant seal enjoying the shoreline. Further south in California, we have Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary, located about 30 miles off the coast of Santa Barbara, protects the Channel Islands surrounding waters, including kelp forests. Here you have the California state marine fish, the Garibaldi, which is a very bright orange fish you'll find in the kelp forests. Going further west, you have Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument. Here you can see some of the most charismatic marine species like this Hawaiian monk seal and green sea turtle finding home on the beach. Also in the Pacific, we have Hawaiian Islands Humpback Whale National Marine Sanctuary, which protects the breeding grounds for humpback whales. And we have also in the Pacific, the National Marine Sanctuary of American Samoa. Now this sanctuary is particularly impressive because it protects the longest living coral head known on this planet, and its name is Big Mama. Coming back to continental US, off the coast of Texas, about 100 nautical miles offshore, we have Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary. In this photo, you see a moray eel. Going to the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, where we protect coral reefs all along the Florida Keys Reef Track. Going a little bit north off the coast of Georgia in the Atlantic, we have Gray's Reef National Marine Sanctuary, which protects live bottom reef ecosystems. And here we have our very first National Marine Sanctuary ever designated, the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, located off of North Carolina. Now, the Monitor is a Civil War era shipwreck that is protected in this sanctuary. Going from the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, our very first sanctuary ever designated, to now our most recent, established just in November of 2019, we have Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary. Now, this National Marine Sanctuary protects the ghost fleet of shipwrecks. Quite a unique sanctuary. As you can see here, these shipwrecks are partially submerged in the Potomac River. Going further north in Massachusetts Bay, we have Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Shauna will tell you a little bit more about something that went on in this sanctuary later on today, but it's well known for its whale watching and bird watching. And up in the Great Lakes, off the shores of Alpena, Michigan, we have Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which protects over 200 shipwrecks in Thunder Bay. All right, now that I've done a virtual tour, if you want to head back over to Slido, I'm really interested to know if any of you have ever visited a National Marine Sanctuary before. I'll give you some time to fill that out. Jesse, what's it looking like over in the Slido room?
All right, so far our respondents, most have, so we got 71% have visited, and that's changing a little bit. We're getting more people. Oh, 50-50 at 10 in. So five people have, 5 people haven't so far. Our first 10 respondents, but that's pretty good, guys. That's awesome. And way to go on participating in Slido for the first time for those of you who are new to it.
Yeah, that is great. And yeah, welcome to Slido. All right, so now that you have a sense of place on where these sanctuaries are, I want to tell you a little bit more about what they do. So we protect things like the sea giants. Here we have a whale shark in Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary, to the small sea life, like all of the reef fish and corals. We are protecting places of abundant biodiversity. We are providing shelter for some of the most amazing sea creatures, like this sea turtle and Hawaiian monk seal. And we protect maritime heritage, like you noticed in Thunder Bay, Mallows Bay, as well as Monitor National Marine Sanctuary. So we are protecting these resources for generations to come. We're protecting these special marine places because they are yours to explore and enjoy. They're yours to paddle, yours to fish, yours to snorkel, yours to boat, yours to surf. And with that, these sanctuaries are all yours to enjoy. And we are bringing on Shauna today to tell us a little bit about how Hispanic Access Foundation has found enjoyment in the National Marine Sanctuaries, and to talk to us today about Latino Conservation Week. Now, Shauna Edberg is the Director of Conservation Programs for the Hispanic Access Foundation, and she's put together a wonderful presentation for us today. So, Shauna, I'm going to turn it over to you. Make you the presenter.
Awesome. All right, am I sharing my screen? All good?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. I'm excited to bring you on this voyage through Latino history in public waters and marine protected areas. So, as Hannah said, I'm the Conservation Program Director with Hispanic Access Foundation, and our mission is to connect Latinos with partners and opportunities to improve lives and create an equitable society. So before we start on our tour, I want to explain the question about what exactly we're talking about when we refer to Latino history, because it's a little bit more complicated maybe than it sounds. The Latino population is actually, it's really diverse. It comes from a lot of different places and a lot of different times in American history. So Latino heritage comes partly from the Native Americans and the indigenous groups that lived in North and South America for tens of thousands of years before 1492. I think the scientific consensus is that the Americas were populated around 20,000 BCE, but there are some who believe that maybe it's as old as 50 to 60,000 BCE. Latino history comes partly from the Spanish colonizers who came to the Americas from 1492 and afterward. It comes from the populations that live in what we now call California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Texas, Nevada, back when those lands belonged to Mexico before the US conquered them and they became the states that we know today. Latino history also comes from the year 1898, when Spain gave Puerto Rico to the US after the US defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War. And of course, Latino history comes from all the people who have come to the US from Latin America over the past 500 years. So all of that is Latino history. And of course, it's American history. All right, so our first destination is Padre Island and National Seashore in Texas. So we're gonna head there on Google Earth. And the history of Padre Island is one of shipwrecks. It has among the oldest shipwrecks that have ever been found off the continental US. They were 3 Spanish ships that wrecked in a storm in the year 1554. At the time, in the year 1554, it was the greatest disaster to ever befall the Spanish fleet in the New World. And out of the 300 or more people that were on those ships, there were only 31 survivors. However, the Spanish came back after the shipwreck later that year to salvage all the treasure that they could get off of the ships. So they were able to recover 29,000 pounds of silver and 22,000 pesos. That was the currency that you can see here. And pieces of the wrecks sometimes still wash up to shore in Padre Island. So if you ever find something that looks like it might be a bit of archaeology or history, you should probably report it to a ranger or to the visitor center or to someone in the Park Service, because that's really a piece of our American heritage. Today, Padre Island is home to the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, which is an endangered species. And there was a program that was established for these sea turtles on Padre Island back in 1978. And today, or well, in non-pandemic times normally, you can actually go to see the staff at Padre Island releasing turtle hatchlings on the beach to make their way into the ocean for their new home. So that's something I would definitely love to see back when we can travel again. And of course, today there are all sorts of attractions that you can do in Padre Island, such as bird watching or other wildlife watching, boating, canoeing, kayaking, fishing, windsurfing, or enjoying and learning about some of the history that I'm telling you today. Next up on our destination list is Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So we will head over there. Okay. And Monterey Bay actually has a lot of really interesting history. Prior to the arrival of Europeans, it was the original home of the Ohlone Native Americans. Starting in the 1770s, Spanish Franciscan missionaries began to arrive, and they set up the mission system. So this is a mission that you can see an old photo of a mission in Monterey County. And in these missions, the native Ohlone populations were forced to convert to Christianity. They were baptized and they were forced to work on these missions. And this resulted in food shortages, in epidemics among the Ohlone people, because they didn't have the immunity to the diseases that the Europeans brought from Europe. And because of all this suffering, it led to a lot of rebellion and conflict between the Ohlone and the Spanish. So in 1776, Monterey was named the capital of Alta and Baja California in New Spain. So all of this territory here in yellow and more in South America belonged to Spain, and they called it New Spain. So Monterey was named the capital of Alta California, or Upper California, that's here, and Baja California, or Lower California, down here in what is now Mexico. And Baja California, of course, still retains its name as a Mexican state today. And then the Monterey area passed into Mexican governance, because in 1821, Mexico had its war for independence, and it won its independence from Spain. So this whole green territory became the province of the nation of Mexico. But only 25 years later, the US won the Mexican-American War and took half of Mexico's territory. So when I said that all these states here used to belong to Mexico, that's what I mean. In 1846, this all became part of the US. And if you've ever heard someone say, we didn't cross the border crossed us, that's also what they're referring to, is that the border between the US and Mexico went from here to much farther south in the Rio Grande. So then, a few years afterwards, in 1850, Monterey held a constitutional convention to write California's first state constitution. and then it became the state of California that we know today. So what you can do in Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary is basically anything that you can imagine on the beach or in the water. It's just so beautiful. You can do hiking, boating, diving. You can see some really cool views, whale watching. You can see seals and sea lions, and of course, go to the famous Monterey Bay Aquarium. I highly recommend it. Next up, we are heading to Florida. So as you can see, we are now in the middle of downtown Miami to the José Martí Park. And this park was named after a man named José Martí, who is a national hero of Cuba. He lived from 1853 to 1895. He did all sorts of things. He was a writer, he was a poet, he was a theorist, he was a philosopher, he was a revolutionary. And one of his main accomplishments was in helping to win Cuban independence against Spain. And how he did that was he helped unite Cubans that lived in the US at the time to get their money and their support and their resources to help fight the Cuban War for Independence against Spain. And he actually died in action in the Battle of Dos Rios during the Spanish War for Independence. And he also spoke against US rule of Cuba, which at the time was a very strong possibility that the US could colonize Cuba. His influence has lasted long after he died, for hundreds of years. His philosophies and politics that he wrote about continue to play a role today in Cuban politics, and were especially influential in the Cuban Revolution of 1959. And today we have a lovely Riverside Park in Miami honoring him, which of course has park benches, playgrounds that you can enjoy, art installations, and we just love to see a park in the middle of the city where green space is even more important, honoring this man's legacy in the US and in Latin America. For our final destination, we are heading to Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. Here off of the Massachusetts Bay. And this is a bit of very recent history. In 2006, Stellwagen Bank made a sister sanctuary agreement with the Dominican Republic and some other Caribbean islands and nations. So if you've ever heard of a sister city, this was a sister sanctuary, and it was the first ever made back in 2006. The Dominican Republic was actually the first Caribbean nation to establish a mammal marine sanctuary. And today, the Dominican Republic Sanctuary is the largest whale sanctuary in the Northern Hemisphere. And this is mainly to protect the migration region of humpback whales. So you can see in the map that mother-calf pairs of humpback whales make the trip to Stellwagen Bank from the Dominican Republic, where the young learn to feed and mothers regain weight after a long winter fast and nursing their young. So that's really cool. And for even more recent history, and because today we're in the middle of Latino Conservation Week, Hispanic Access Foundation and NOAA teamed up to bring whale watching at this amazing location to the Latino community, and brought a group of 80+ churchgoers and students on a mission to whale watch in Stellwagen. And it was a really, really good event. And we just love bringing these events to the Latino community to introduce them to new opportunities, new locations, and ways to passion for the outdoors and making a difference in protecting our nation's natural resources. If you want more information on Latino history and connections to the ocean and coast, we have written a report on it that I believe is being linked in the chat. It's the first of its kind report talking about Latino heritage, ability to access, and the impacts, resilience, and economics surrounding the ocean, coast, and watersheds, with a lot of really amazing quotes, stories, and polls from the community. Okay, so I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about Latino Conservation Week because we are in the middle of it. Latino Conservation Week is an initiative of Hispanic Access Foundation, which was created to support the Latino community getting into the outdoors and participating in activities that protect our natural resources. So it's always the third week in July. Normally there's all sorts of outdoor events that are held to celebrate Latino Conservation Week. You know, it could be picnics, group hikes, rafting trips, fishing trips, like anything you can imagine. Of course, this year it's a little bit different. And we're mostly organizing digital or virtual or at-home events, which, you know, it's a little bit sad that we're not able to go outside as a group, but it is an opportunity to expand the narrative of what conservation looks like, even if you're at home or in your backyard or in the middle of the city. And of course, we really want to protect people's health above all. So we think it's important to make sure that events are digital or otherwise safely held. Before I start showing some examples of Latino Conservation Week events that you can get involved with, I want to remind everyone how important it is to be safe when you go outside and enjoy nature these days. I mean, we really want everyone to be able to enjoy the outdoors, but you need to do your part to keep from spreading the coronavirus or from contracting it yourself. So here's some quick guidelines. I'm sure you know, practice physical distancing, make sure you bring your mask, make sure you're aware of whether your park is open or not before you go. We want to make sure also that you're part of building a welcoming outdoors community to make sure that we welcome and respect all visitors of every race and age and gender and sexual orientation. We just want to make sure the outdoors is really inclusive and welcoming to everyone. So please do your part. Now for some of my personal favorite events for Latino Conservation Week. One of our partners has created a loteria, which is a Mexican bingo style game. You can download the cards and the game boards online. If you go to latinoconservationweek.com, you'll find the event with some really cool art that is on all these cards. And if you're learning Spanish or if you're learning English, they also make really great flashcards. Another cool event that I wanted to share is a virtual concert with Puerto Rican Ale Croato. So you can find that on Facebook Live. One other event is a soap making workshop. So for this one, if you register the event, the organizer will ship the soap making supplies to you, and then you can join the workshop online and learn how to make soap in an eco-friendly way, which I think is just super cool and sounds really fun. If you're in San Bernardino, California, here's something that you can do outside, but still in a responsible manner. You know, you can join this Adopt a Block event, help clean up your street and show love to your city and the nature that's in your city. If you're in New Mexico, you can join this Continental Divide Trail scavenger hunt, which is a photo scavenger hunt along the Continental Divide Trail with prizes. If you're in the DC area, or just if you're interested in biking, you can join this Biking Basics workshop, which will help tell you how to bike safely during the pandemic. And I cannot stress enough, this is just a tiny, tiny sample of more than 100 really cool events. It was so difficult to pick out my favorites. So I really encourage you to go to latinoconservationweek.com and see what there is that you can get involved in. If you're interested in conservation careers, there's a lot of events where you can talk to people who are currently working in the field. You can participate in contests. There are more games and treasure hunts. You can watch movie screenings. You can join in nature or forest therapy. You can compete in trivia. You can listen to more concerts. You can join virtual hikes, bikes, and tours. And there's a lot of classes available if you want to learn about climate change or how to draw wildlife, or about plants and butterflies, or Latino history and cooking. There's just so many things you can do. It's really, really cool list. And so I will finish up and take any questions. Thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hannah. So Hannah will be joining us again in a minute as well, and she might have some questions to share independently too. We've been getting some questions pouring in on the question section of the GoToWebinar and on Slido as well. Shanna, if you want to come out of screen share too, you can leave it up for a minute so people can find out more about you. I've also linked information about you, about the Hispanic Access Foundation, and about Latino Conservation Week, all in the chat bar for people to learn more. But I wanted to start with a personal question, and that is, how did you, like, what is your backstory to get so insanely enthusiastic about this? Like, you live and breathe this stuff, your passion's infectious, and I just want to hear a little bit about you yourself, because we didn't get a chance to hear much about that.
Yeah, sure. So full disclosure, I'm actually not Latina, but I really care a lot about this community that I love and just want to elevate and share. So I think my background comes a lot actually from growing up Jewish in Los Angeles, and just having this religious sense that we need to take part in tikkun olam. We need to repair the world, and you can't stand idly by. And living in Los Angeles, you're close to so much amazing nature, but also you're kind of in a concrete jungle, right? So I think this contrast really made me want to bring more of the nature into the city. So yeah, I think that's where a lot of that comes from.
Fantastic. And you highlighted so many great events for people to take part in for the Conservation Week, but just generally. So when was your first experience getting out to a place like a marine sanctuary? Have you been to these places in person? Have you got a chance to explore really incredible and be sort of smacked in the face by nature and how incredible it can be? And how do we encourage people that might not have that opportunity right now to have that sort of experience?
Yeah, so like I said, I think a lot of this comes from childhood, growing up in California, being able to go with my parents to Yosemite, to Monterey Bay, like to these amazing places, and just like have this like reservoir of memories that I cherish. And then also today, I've lived in several places around the world, and choosing where I live now was a very deliberate decision to live near a park. And that has really paid off in the pandemic during the quarantine, because it's just this like mental outlet and like reservoir and refreshment of my sanity that I need every single day. And I know that's something that not everyone is able to do. So that's why I just want everyone to be able to have this experience that I have.
Yeah. How beautiful. I love reservoir of memories as a concept. We need to use that somehow. That's awesome. But yeah, whether you're near something like a big marine sanctuary or a big national park, and the United States is just full of incredible places. I mean, Hannah showcased so many amazing places to go. I know I'm booking my flight as soon as I can. But even if it's a city park or a backyard, there's so much nature out there and so many ways to explore. So I think that's a really powerful message. Before we share a few more questions, again, just a note, you can share your questions in the question bar on GoToMeeting. You can share them on Slido. We'll take as many as we can. We've got a question on Slido, and our first one is just about the whale watching. I don't know how many whale watching excursions are still happening, but they were concerned about social distancing. So you covered this a lot. Are there things like this still happening? And maybe, Hannah, you can speak on this too, and how are they going about it in a safe way?
For our part, we actually had to postpone another event that was in Stellwagen National Marine Sanctuary. Yeah, it was sad, but really health above all. We don't want people getting sick. So unfortunately, no, for our part, we're not organizing events like that at this time.
And I can say the same pretty much for the National Marine Sanctuaries. The most updated information can be found on each sanctuary's specific website. Some of our sanctuaries, like Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, has a partnership with the Glass Bottom Boat that looks at shipwrecks. Currently, it is not in operation due to the pandemic, but they will be practicing the best practices available once we are reopening. So you can stay up to date through each site's website, and I'll put the main sanctuary's website in the chat so you can find them from there.
Fantastic. Thanks, ladies. So this is really exciting. And I mean, one of the benefits of now of being in 2020 is that there are so many digital ways to still explore. I mean, we saw this in both your presentations, not only incredible pictures, but just this way of navigating the world and exploring and understanding so many incredible places. So we highlighted a few digital events. For everyone watching right now, you're participating in one and learning about some of these things directly. How is NOAA, how is the Hispanic Access Foundation making sure that this increasing population of the Hispanic community in the United States, how are they working to ensure that those people are feel welcome in these places? Like, I mean, historically, whether it's NOAA, whether it's national parks, etc., have been largely a sort of targeting a certain audience, and we're trying to broaden that. If there are ways that are working to reach out to a more diverse audience and patronage?
Yeah, I will take a first at this question, since our primary way of connecting with Latinos is through Hispanic Access Foundation and our partnership with them, like the whale watching cruises that happened last year in Stellwagen Bank National Marine Sanctuary. I'd also like to highlight our distance learning programs are a way that we're trying to assess diversity and inclusion by making sanctuaries reachable to all people. So programs like the one you're participating in right now, this live interaction, as well as our virtual reality resources that are viewable from any computer screen, cell phone, VR headset, if you're lucky enough to have one of those, that take you into a national marine sanctuary. So making sure that people from anywhere, from any background, have access to the national marine sanctuaries is one of our main missions.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that we created Latino Conservation Week was just for that reason, to make sure that that our community has this access that they don't always have. And as you mentioned, sometimes in the US kind of outdoor community, you think about like a white man out on his own, with his backpack out in the mountains, but different people use and enjoy nature differently. And so during this week, that's why we encourage the Latino community to just take up space outdoors. Be yourselves, bring your family, be loud and play music, and you do nature your way.
I think that's something that's happening up in Canada too, where I'm joining from. There was a book recently by a gentleman who did a tour of all the national parks in the United States, and he talked, I think it's Leave No Footprints, and he talked about all the amazing initiatives, whether it's the Latino community, the Black community, people that have not historically been reached by these sort of outreach programs, and that there's so many amazing campaigns like this one and programs like this that are making that connection possible, which is really nice to hear. So fantastic. Thanks, ladies. All right, we've got another Slido question, and that is, does your organization, and we can take this to mean either one, partner with schools, districts, or informal education facilities? Are there ways that we can connect exactly what we're doing now, sort of on the web, more directly with classrooms and with students at home?
Yeah, so the NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries has two different distance learning programs. The one you're on right now is our live interactions tailored for students and run in partnership with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. And these are to continue, and we can partner with schools that way. We also have our webinar series, which is tailored for educators. And so these educators get a 1 hour of professional development experience from tuning into that webinar. So that's another unique approach. And then we have an abundance of lesson plans and activities and education resources on our website as well for teachers to use. So, and I'm the education specialist for the Office of National Marine Sanctuary, so feel free to contact me if you have any recommendations, suggestions for partnerships. We're always open to new ideas.
Fantastic. Cool.
Yeah, for our part, I don't think we specialize quite as much in education, but for events like the Stellwagen whale watching, we did go through schools to, be able to get families and children on board, and it's something that we are interested in exploring more of.
Fantastic. One thing we just got in Slido, and it was a shout out to a specific organization, the Mystic Aquarium, that's been doing this, but they talked about bilingualism. So the fact that we share these messages in Spanish as well as English. Is this, I mean, obviously for Latino Conservation Week, we'll have it in Spanish and English. At NOAA, are there efforts to make sure that the site is accessible in not just Spanish, but a variety of languages, or how is that working? Do you know? Just curious.
Yeah, we have some of our resources available in both Spanish and English, not as many as we would hope to, so we are actively working on translating those documents.
Fantastic, great to hear. A question came in the question bar on our GoToWebinar, and it's about Jose Marti. So is he still revered in Cuba? You talked about this a little bit, so to a specific historical point, if you can share that with us.
Yeah, as far as I know, he is still considered, you know, kind of a legendary father of the nation, sort of like our founding fathers.
Fantastic. We need a new, we need like a Lin-Manuel Miranda to create like a Hamilton play just for him. We'll do like a sequel to make it happen. And if anyone hasn't seen that, you should go see it immediately. It's awesome. All right, great Slido questions, guys, and answers on all the polls. We really appreciate that as well. You mentioned 4 marine sanctuaries today, and we had such beautiful stories of all 4, and you highlighted such great history. Are there more places in the NOAA sort of retinue of amazing places that they're working on finding or telling these stories of Latino history? Like, could we do a follow-up one of these in a few weeks with 10 more different sanctuaries, or what's the deal?
There's at least a handful more. So we actually have a list of them in the report that I mentioned. One that I didn't get the chance to talk about was Assateague Island, which is another shipwreck story, which is famous for its wild horses. And the horses supposedly are the descendants of the horses that were on the ship that wrecked and, you know, survived and became wild on the island. And that's here in Maryland. So that's something that's just a cool fact.
That's super cool. Well, see, Hannah, let's set it up. Let's make it happen. We'd love to do that. This is great. So looking very forward to a future hypothetical presentation. I don't know. We got another question just 2 seconds ago. Are there virtual opportunities on weekends? I guess people might be want something to do and there's nothing to watch or do right now. Do you guys do these things year round, every day of the week, what have you?
Our live interactions with NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuary is currently taking place during the week. We do have an upcoming weekend, Get Into Your Sanctuary weekend, the last weekend of July, first weekend of August, crossover there. That will be a weekend virtual event, so there'll be more information on that to come.
Fantastic, thanks, Hannah.
There are Latino Conservation Week events through the weekend as well.
I figured that's probably when the bulk of them are up there. Awesome. Hannah, we're getting near the end of the broadcast now, 40 minutes in, and then of course if people have more questions in the next few minutes, we're happy to share those. But is there anything you guys would like to wrap up with as we end off the broadcast?
I have a few wrap-up slides. If we can wait another minute to see if anyone has any more questions. I do see a question coming in about if they can review the lecture after the session, and I'm assuming that means this entire program we've put on, and in fact you can. I'll talk about it a little bit in a second, but Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants has been generous enough to provide us an entire YouTube playlist with our live interactions. So not only can you find this one in a few days, but you'll also be able to find all of our past live interactions with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants.
Perfect. And I just noticed, sorry, all those questions just popped in when I clicked something, so I just refreshed. There are many more questions. Good to know. Sorry about that, guys. We talked about this a little bit a minute ago, but is there a list on the Hispanic Access Foundation site, NOAA site, of historically significant parks to the Latino community? This could be like a very exhaustive, very long list, but does that exist somewhere?
Boy, we have a list of the marine ones in the report that I mentioned. As for all of them, that would be a very long list. I think we actually do have another report on the top 10 inland, kind of public lands parks. So I can pull up a link for that in just a minute.
Fantastic. Whatever links we can share too. So if you send the link, I think everyone in this broadcast can send the information in the chat bar. So Hannah, if you want to put that in there, that would be fantastic. Another question straight from your broadcast is the Lateria and the soap making. Someone wanted to know if they could find that specifically, but they couldn't find it on the website. So there's more info on soap making. You know where we can find that?
So LatinoConservationWeek.com/events, I believe. It's I know there's more than 100 events on there, and I think you'll just have to Control F search for soap making or the Lateria.
Nice. Perfect. What else do we have? Whale migrations. Ooh, a long question from Stephen Edberg, who presumably is related. Possibly not. I don't know. However, whale watch. Whale migrations are annual, but viewing them at any particular place is subject to their schedules. Of course, when you're doing any animal interaction in nature, it depends on what the animals are doing that particular day. And the seasons near our coast. So it's just someone highlighting that you can go check out whales in other places, whether or not this year, in other parts of the year. Great comment. Thank you for that, Stephen. That's awesome. All right. We have Yashira wants to know about Latina or Latinx representation in leadership positions in education and outreach positions at the Hispanic Access Foundation. So are they well represented as expected at your organization?
We actually do have an internship program in order to help place interns with Fish and Wildlife, National Forest Service, all sorts of different natural resource agencies with the government. And that is called the MANO program. And we help pay you a stipend, pay for your housing and all that stuff. It's a really, really good program. So if you go to hispanicaccess.org, you can find the information on that program.
Fantastic. I linked the site in the chat bar. As I said, there's so much there. It's a really exhaustive, quite incredible site. So way to go to you guys. And there's so many resources and things to check out there. Latino Conservation Week 2, again, linked in the chat bar. So many fantastic things. And Jen, if you're having trouble with sending things to all attendees, send it to one of us and we'll pass it along. That's really easy.
I just boosted it up there.
Perfect.
And then I also just posted a link to fosterscholars.noaa.gov. Now, this is our master's and doctoral scholarship program. We are primarily focused to diverse women in STEM. So if you are a master's or doctoral student interested in pursuing marine field, I would definitely consider checking out that link. Now, that scholarship is run through the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries and is a great program to be a part of. So I highly recommend that. Similar to an internship program, but for education.
Outstanding. For everyone really keen on getting inspired by amazing women in STEM as well, so at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, something like 65 to 70% of all the people we welcome onto our broadcast are amazing women from around the globe. And then we spend the entire month of February kicking out all the men. It's like 50, 60 crazy events. We never stop, all celebrating incredible women. So check those all out. Every broadcast we've ever done, including, of course, our playlist with NOAA, is all on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants on YouTube. So I really encourage you to check those out. We've got some really fantastic people in pretty much any topic you can imagine. But again, it's a really exciting opportunity to be able to talk about this specifically today. And it's nice to highlight, not just in an informal way, but directly the impact and the exciting things happening to welcome in different communities into the NOAA system and marine sanctuaries and more. So this has been fantastic.
I know we're very lucky to have Hispanic Access Foundation as a partner, and we're excited to be able to collaborate during Latino Conservation Week too.
Yeah, I mean, I know that we're all friends here, but we might have to steal them too as a partner at the end of this, because I wasn't aware of this organization coming into this. I'm thrilled to get to host them, and I'm really excited to see what the potential might be in sharing more great stories like this. So
yeah, that sounds great.
Cool. Hannah, 4:45. We got through all our questions, unless I've done totally wrong again. I think we're good. So if you wanted to wrap up with a few slides, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to change the presenter over to myself and share the wrap-up slides. So as I mentioned before, all of our live interactions are broadcasted on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube page. I believe, is it showing up a little bit funky on your end?
A little bit funky. That's okay. We're pretty funky here, so that makes sense.
See if I can do it one more time. Well, it'll have to do. So as I mentioned, we're on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants YouTube page. It takes about a couple days to get the most recent live interaction up, but I think we have about 15 in the playlist right now. So in the meantime, if you're waiting for this one, check out one of our previous interactions. Our next interaction with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants is just on Monday, and it's another unique one. It's about paddling shipwrecks, adventures in Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We're going to be bringing on a local paddleboarder who enjoys spending time floating, as you can see in this photo, over the shipwrecks of Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. We're also bringing on the research coordinator at Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary to talk about recreation and research and how they go hand in hand. If you're also interested in other live opportunities to connect with ocean and science, we have these live interactions for students. We have our webinar series, which I've mentioned is for educators. I also want to highlight all of the incredible interactions that Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants puts on, bringing in an abundance of scientists and explorers from all over the world. And then there's also NOAA Ocean Today, Deeper Dive, which produces a live interaction once a month during the full moon. And this next full moon is going to take place sometime near August 4th. I might be on the weekend, but on Monday, August 4th, there'll be a live interaction where we'll be talking about sanctuaries run through NOAA Ocean Today. And with that, I want to conclude with, if you happen to be an adult or are near an adult who is willing to fill out the distance learning survey, we want to hear from you. We want to hear about your experiences with these live interactions. And if you have any tips on how to improve them, any topics you want covered, we really love your feedback. So that survey will be prompted right after I conclude this webinar. And if you have just a few minutes to fill that out, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, I want to thank Shauna and Hispanic Access Foundation, JOSÉ with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, and all of you who attended today for joining this interaction. And I hope you enjoy the rest of Latino Conservation Week. I know I'm going to be checking out a ton of their events that are virtual. So thank you, Shauna, for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's it for today, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.